Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third call for a new miraculous way of being, the program. Once again, I welcome you into the sacred space, the sacred container created just for you, by you, for the specific purpose of accelerating your embodiment as a masterful being of light. As an ascended master, as source consciousness, really just grounding, stabilizing that inner wisdom, that inner truth into form, and identifying with ourselves on a level that is not boxed or limited in any shape or form, but is so open, so vast, so expanded that the possibilities and the potentiality for all of you becomes endless. It truly is endless. It truly becomes endless because you're realizing once again your true nature, your true essence. This week's call, this third call, the cultivation of radical acceptance. It might sound so simple, but it's actually a very complex and very vast topic to unravel and discuss. But I'm going to get to the heart of what this means and how this can radically shift your life, shift your consciousness, shift your world as you know it to be. Because when we learn to cultivate radical acceptance in order to create magical change within our lives, this means that we don't just see the change outside of ourselves, but we ultimately become the change and the embodiment of our highest potential. I want to just move a little bit sideways here for a moment because I'm almost getting this download of a personal story of mine that is coming to the forefront now. And when I get this pressing messages, I'm going to allow source energy to just flow through. I'm going to allow the wisdom to just flow through so that we all can receive what we are here to receive. But I remember a time when I just began working as a healer and as a teacher, and I just sort of came out. I was still very unconfident, very nervous and very fearful about appearing as such, being the best healer and teacher I could possibly be, And I remember a time when I was busy with a live call, a group call, and when I started speaking, I remember myself just going blank. It's like I froze. I just froze. I didn't know what to say. I forgot what I wanted to say. I planned everything out, step by step, that I wanted to bring forward in that teaching, in that program. But I completely froze out of fear and out of anxiety. And what I would have usually done in that moment I would have just tried and gotten to my page quickly and just see what was it that I needed to say. But I decided to do something different in that moment. And I decided to pause and be with myself in that frozen moment where my mind was just blank. I decided in that moment to show up authentically. Instead of pretending like I was just moving on to the next point, like I had not frozen, I acknowledged, oh my word, I actually lost my frame of thought. I actually just forgot what I wanted to say. I began to be honest in that moment to those that was listening to the call. And as I began to acknowledge out loud and to myself, I forgot what I wanted to say. I'm just frozen right now. In that moment of acknowledging what had just happened, recognizing what had just happened, I could tune in and see, okay, is this fear Is this anxiety, or is this something else, or is it both? And as I tuned in that moment of silence, I realized part of it was anxiety or fear, but the other part was actually a higher guidance wanting to come through me. And what I did was I went completely off script in that moment. And I said, you know what, I'm actually feeling quite anxious at this moment. But it also feels like I just need to tune in here for a moment and just feel into if there's anything else that wants to be said, anything else that wants to be brought forward, any activation, any transmission. And at that time, I didn't know I could channel it. I didn't know I could channel. I was merely just working off of my personal experience and all of the teachings and the skills that I've gained up until that point. And if I did channel, I didn't know I was channeling because I was still so very unconfident about my gifts and abilities. And as I tuned in front of everyone, I was so nervous and I thought, oh my word, I'm probably messing up this entire program right now. And I decided to stay still. And I listened into that stillness, into that quietness, into that frozen moment. And I acknowledged the fear. And as I acknowledged the fear, I moved through and past the fear to a void space. And suddenly a different message came through. And what happened also then was that after the call, and after the program, I remember going through the audios, the replays, and I remember thinking to myself, no man, the way that this program unfolded, how the calls and the teachings unfolded, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem logical. It seems a little bit confusing. I don't like the way that this is wrapped in this box. It doesn't look good. It doesn't sound good. How are the members going to perceive the way that this program is laid out and how the calls have progressed with the teachings that probably it doesn't make sense to me at this point? Why do I want to put this out and give this to people? And I was judging how my calls and my program unfolded because it didn't make sense to my logical mind. It didn't come through the way that I would have wanted it to come through. And my ego would say, no, this is not good. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't make sense. And I realized after that what was happening is that I didn't trust the flow of source energy through me. I tried to fit this program into a box with a bow, perfect little box with a bow, presented to them in a specific way. But this box that I was trying to fit it in was a box of the old paradigm. It had limitations to it. And so it's not that I can't edit my material. It's not that I can't tweak my material. But how much am I going to allow perfection, limitation, old strategies and structures to diminish and limit the source energy to flow and express through me as it wants to flow and express through me? And then I began to just let it go. It's almost as if I surrendered. I said, you know what, source? I'm going to become a clear, open channel vessel. And if anyone doesn't resonate with my programs or my calls and it doesn't make sense to them, then it's okay. But I'm going to trust the flow of energy flowing through me right now. I will prepare to a certain degree, but the rest of the call I'm going to allow it to just be as it is. And I'm going to trust that whatever comes through in the way that it comes through will resonate with the people that it needs to resonate with. And when I began doing that, that's when I really started to channel my higher power. Started to channel other beings and masters and angels. And I started channeling my own divine wisdom that I didn't know I had. All this time I was trying to fit everything in a beautiful box with a bow because I've seen other people do it that way. And so I then moved on and allowed my transmissions to be just as they were, even if they didn't make complete sense to me afterwards when I listened to it. I learned to trust that that was exactly the way it was meant to be delivered. You see, beloved, embodiment is about becoming a clear vessel for source consciousness to fully flow and express itself through you without limitation, without boxes, without labels, without limited beliefs, without constructs, without strategies. Because you are so much more than that. Most of the time, those things just limit your greatness because you are not here to mimic anyone else. You are here to go first. And so my teachings began to, even though at times it didn't make sense to me and I wasn't happy with the outcome of it, I began to surrender to that essence that came through my teachings. Because I was a perfectionist, I was a perfectionist. And when I surrendered to that, slowly I began to transcend the judgment, where I was judging my work and judging myself. And I became great within myself. I realized my own greatness. I realized that great energy within me that I was suppressing all along. Because, beloved, this work is beyond limited perception, beyond the sensible, logical mind, beyond strategies, beyond boxes and structures. Just taking a moment here to just receive that now. And I want to mention that this call is going to be a little bit different in the sense that the entire transmission is a process. Not that it isn't normally, but intentionally today, the entire transmission from the moment that I said hello to the end of this call will be a process, meaning that you are being elevated with every single word that comes through my mouth, with every breath, with every deeper listening, with every moment of flow, of softening. You will be held, you will be accelerated in terms of your transformation and embodiment. And we have a beautiful guest that's going to be stepping forward later on during the call. But it is all part of this conversation that we are having today about cultivating radical acceptance. How do we begin to radically accept the moment without resistance? How do we begin accepting and allowing the moment to be just as it is, just letting it be? What does that give us when we do that? When we're not fighting against it, when we are not suppressing it, denying it, avoiding it, resisting it. When we allow the moment to be as it is, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it can be challenging, what happens then? Healing happens, beloved. Change happens, beloved. Transformation happens, beloved. You see, it's not that when we accept a situation or we accept ourselves, it's not that we are saying, I'm not going to be able to heal my blocks and traumas anymore. Of course you can heal your blocks and traumas. But you are now healing it from a different perspective, a different state of being. And guess what? When we are in radical acceptance and allowing of the moment as it arises, healing naturally occurs. You know when healing doesn't occur? Healing doesn't occur when we resist the moment because it's uncomfortable. Because most of what we do is we have an experience of contraction, a challenging, uncomfortable, intense moment that doesn't feel good within the mind, the heart, or the body. And the reason why it doesn't feel good is because there's something there that wants to be processed, something there that wants to transform. But because it doesn't feel good, we resist it. And we immediately say, okay, no, I need to fix this. This doesn't feel good. I need to fix this right now. Some part of me is broken. And then we go into desperation mode. We try and find a healer or a teacher or ourselves or a process or modality or a code that's going to instantly just resolve this thing. And in some cases, you'll go to a healer and the healer can actually help you resolve a block because they are holding a state of consciousness, a state of being that is at the frequency of healing and miracles. However, when you have a core wound, a core trauma, a core belief that has been perpetuating itself over and over and over throughout the course of your life, and you continue to resist it, it's going to continue to perpetuate. And it's going to come up in different ways or forms or shapes. And so when we no longer then resist it and we lean into that discomfort and that moment without judgment, that's the key word, without judgment, meaning we are now looking at this experience from a neutral perspective. There's no story, there's no idea, there's no belief, there's no perspective that's running through the mind anymore. That is, I've moved past that now, and now I'm allowing and accepting the moment and myself to be as it is. And when you do that, beloved, that is healing in motion. In fact, beloved, the whole process of ascension and evolution and healing, it naturally works. It is a mechanism that naturally works. It is already in the works. But the reason why we don't heal, the reason why we don't transform, the reason why things don't change is because we are constantly in resistance to what is. There are either thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, old emotions, unprocessed emotions and traumas that we have not fully resolved, faced, allowed, embraced. And every time it's triggered into your awareness, every time you have a connection or an encounter or a trigger that happens that brings this to the surface, that is the moment for us to realize the opportunity to allow it to release, because it's coming up for release. Are we going to once again suppress it, deny it, disown it? Or are we going to embrace it, allow it, and accept the moment and let it just be? Let the light come in. Beloved, what if you realize now that that part of you that suffers, the part of you that you want to fix, the part of you that you want to change, the part of you that reacts in a way to your external experience that you want to transform is in fact your inner child? Would that change the way you perceive your experience and yourself now? You see, we've been perceiving our shadows as the enemy for so long. We have been perceiving our shadow as a barrier to our freedom, to our happiness, to our abundance. And yet it is the thing, the doorway that wants to liberate us. What if we realized that the shadow was indeed our inner child clamoring for love, longing to be recognized, longing to be nurtured and held with compassion, without judgment? What if every single moment that feels uncomfortable, that is triggering, that feels challenging, is in fact the inner child coming up, revealing herself as having an experience of contraction, how differently could you now respond and react to her and yourself and to the moment as it is? Beloved, as we move through the journey of ascended mastery, of ascension, of healing, of transformation, of coming home, we realize that every single moment, no matter how difficult, is grace. Is grace. And how is everything grace? How is every experience grace? Because every moment, every experience, every encounter is etched with love. And love, beloved, unravels every untruth. Love transforms. Love unravels everything that is false, even if it feels uncomfortable or frightening. Love is transformation. Love is healing. Love is facing our shadow and embracing it with light and love. And every experience is love in motion, because it gives you the gift of expansion and healing and coming home. Beloved, this is why it is grace. This is grace realized. When you are able to realize that there might just be a benefit in this situation for me, that is grace realized. Radical acceptance is accepting the present moment and whatever arises within it. It is also accepting and allowing the inner child and all that he or she is in resistance to. Accepting where she or he is and what she or he is experiencing. Accepting him or her, accepting yourself and your situation without judgment. It is a mindful presence. It is an inner trust, a blind faith, and it is etched with self-compassion and self-love. These are the cornerstones for radical acceptance. Many times we forget that the moment, no matter how uncomfortable or disheartening, is actually there to serve us in the highest possible way. And the only way that we can even begin to connect with this truth is if we become still, is if we allow the moment to be as it is. Because the more we are with the moment as it is, and we allow that upheaval, that challenge to move through us, the more we realize that we're moving into a stillness, we're moving into a space of unbridled clarity. The Buddha once said that the great suffering for us is in not realizing our true nature. Realizing our true nature. When we do not realize and embody our true nature, that's where the suffering lies. Because there's always limitation, there's always not enoughness, there's always almost coulda wouldas. And the true nature is already perfect. It recognizes its perfection, its eternal nature. I'm reminded of a woman who was on her deathbed. She was in a coma, but she was sort of going in and out of consciousness. And in the process of dying, she woke up and she looked up at her daughter standing next to her bed, and she said, And all my life, I thought something was wrong with me. And she closed her eyes and she passed away. It's as if in those moments of unconsciousness, as she was going through the veil and going back to her source, she started to realize her true nature. And she also realized then that her entire human existence, she thought something was wrong with her. And now that she's moving through the process of death, she's coming back to the truth of her magnificence. How many moments, beloved, do we miss? How many moments of joy with our partners, with ourselves, with humanity, with our children, with our neighbors? How many moments of just being in our peace and joyous hearts? How many moments do we miss because we are so caught up in thinking and believing we need fixing, or that something needs to be changed, or something needs to be different? Years and days and moments pass by and we're so focused on that instead of embracing the beautiful moments that are etched within, that we miss. And when it comes to the end of our lifespan, we realize all those moments that we could have had and really honored them to the fullest extent. When we judge ourselves, when we judge our lives, this is what causes non-acceptance. And so the first step to moving into a state of radical acceptance and allowing, letting it be, is to be in no judgment. We try to cover up our cracks with plastic and clay, and we don't realize within that within those cracks are gleams of gold. We begin to identify with the covering instead of who we have always been. Beloved, there is a suffering when we forget the gold. There is a suffering when we forget our home. We see those cracks as the shadow. Must be fixed. We see it as a barrier, as a mountain hill, when in fact that crack, that shadow, that inner child is really just a doorway to liberate yourself. It's really just a doorway to gold, to your goal, to your coming home, to your freedom, to your expansion, to your abundance, to your success, to who you have always been. I'm being reminded now of a process, and I don't want to call it a process because this program is truly beyond processes and modalities and strategies and structures, but I will call them pointers. And what they are pointing to, very simple. They are merely pointing you back to the present moment. They are pointing you back to your awareness. They are pointing you back to a state of being that is in allowance and acceptance of the present moment and whatever is arising within the present moment. I remember going through my own initiations and healing and very intense initiations. And I created this very simple process or step-by-step pointer for myself. And it can be done in any way, in any sequence. It's merely just a pointer, returning you back to the present moment, opening you up so that you may experience your own medicine. It's pointing you back to yourself so that you may experience and uncover your own medicine, beloved. You are that healer. You are the sky. And the thoughts, beliefs, perspectives, your limited identity, they are just the clouds passing by. The sky never moves. The clouds move, and they are temporary, and they pass by. But the sky remains, and that is you, your essence. And so the first step, I'm going to give you the abbreviated version, and you can write this down if you will, or just memorize it if you feel the need to. But the letters, the alphabetic letters are S for sugar. So it's SAAQS for sugar. SAAQS, like SAAQS or SAAQS. SAAQS. And they stand for, S means to stop. You're having a contracted, challenging experience. You're being triggered in this moment with whatever. A thought, a belief, an encounter, a situation, and it's becoming challenging for you right now. First step, stop. And go into stillness. Just become still. Just take a moment here and just stop for a moment. Just stop. Second step, A, is for awareness. Awareness meaning observe, recognize what might be happening right now. Just observe the thoughts, the emotions, the experience you are having. Just watch. Because when you begin to observe and you become awareness and you are becoming aware of, it means you are no longer enmeshed within the experience so much that you are losing your grip of what is true. And it's okay if you do. Just bring yourself back to awareness, to observation, to recognizing the moment. Step 3, allow and accept. This means you are letting the moment now be as it is, without trying to change it, without judgment, with a neutral perspective. You are letting it be. Allow and accept. Just letting it be. Let it do what it needs to do. And this is also a pivotal point, because at this point, when you allow it to do what it needs to do and process the way it needs to process, it can become a little bit more challenging, because at some point it could feel like you are dying within. It can feel like you're reaching a very intense threshold. But this threshold is very important, because this threshold is just momentary. It's just temporary, but it's pushing you through into a deeper level of expansion. Once you move past that threshold, it's almost as if the process is now complete. But sometimes things are very layered and complex. And so what we want to do is we just want to allow and accept and let the moment be as it is, without judgment. Not judging ourselves, not judging our thoughts, not judging our experiences, not judging anything. Neutral. The fourth step, Q, question or inquire or investigate. Now that we have allowed the moment to be as it is, and there's almost this stillness now that has happened within our nervous system. A little bit of a stillness has crept in. And the nervous system is now starting to almost regulate that experience, meaning the nervous system is starting to calm down just a little bit. That tells me that healing is in motion. When the nervous system begins to feel safe, that means that healing is either in motion or healing is complete. That is your identifier when the nervous system begins to feel safe. When you feel safe, even amidst the perceived situation or experience. So in the fourth step, we begin to question, we begin to inquire, we begin to investigate. Okay, what am I questioning? I'm questioning the validity of my thoughts. Is this really true? Is what I'm saying really true? I'm talking about a story from the past. I'm assuming the worst. Or inquiring, what is this? Is this an emotion? Is this anger? Or just investigating what this could possibly be that has come up for me right now, that has been triggered right now. The situation has brought up a feeling of what? Could it be a belief? Could it be a thought? Could it be an old emotion that hasn't been fully processed through me because it reminds me of a past trauma or a past experience? Just begin inquiring and investigating what this could be. But don't do anything to try and fix it. Just investigating right now. The fifth step is then, once we've got an idea of what this could be, even just a slight idea, maybe it's just an emotion of fear, for example, and we've allowed the moment to be as it is, we've accepted it, no judgment. This is the moment, the step where we need to offer ourselves a little bit of self-love, self-nurturing, some self-kindness, self-compassion. And if what we've been experiencing has been really, really difficult, it might be hard for you to give yourself compassion in that moment, and that's okay. What I would do in that instance is then I would offer the compassion and the love and the kindness to the inner child, the part of me that is experiencing this trauma or this fear or has this belief. So now I'm no longer the person that's having the experience. I'm the higher self or the observer of the experience or of the person that is having the experience. I now can offer this compassion to the inner child or to the part of me that is in contraction. And if that doesn't feel good to me, I can then seek nurturing and love, and I can ask to be held by Source, by Christ, by a deity, by a spiritual teacher, by a master, whatever that feels like for you. This once again brings you into a state of surrender. When you are holding yourself with compassion and kindness, or when you are being held with compassion and kindness, it's almost as if a part of us begins to feel safe within the essence of the divine. And this allows us to just almost give in and surrender even more deeply. And you do this until you feel safer. You do this until you have unbridled clarity. You do this constantly until you know your nervous system is feeling safe and okay. Forget about the mind. Remember, the mind is just clouds passing by. The thoughts are just clouds passing by. You are the sky. Thoughts will always pass by, but you are the sky. You are not the cloud anymore. You are the sky. You've always been the sky, beloved. So this is a short little pointer, if you will, which you can incorporate in any moment, just to bring you back to the present moment of radical acceptance, allowing. And what you are truly allowing is you allowing for healing to take place. You're no longer in resistance to the feelings of discomfort, of challenge. All right. I feel this is the pivotal point now where we can complete this entire transmission, this entire process that we've already been going through on this call, of deeper initiation, deeper embodiment, deeper remembrance. I mentioned earlier that we have a special guest today. And I'm going to invoke the presence of his essence now to step forward, as well as invoking the presence of the mighty Holy Seraphim now to surround us in their light as we move through the final part of today's transmission. And this beautiful guest that stepped forward today, he stepped forward a little while back already in preparation for today's call. And he wants me to sort of take you through a journey with him that he took me on in one of my previous initiations. And this process is not anything to do with doing anything. It's merely just about returning back into the resting awareness of the soul, into that stillness, that still point of, once again, radical acceptance, deep surrender, all-knowing remembrance and realization and embodiment of more of that essence, more of that creation energy that you are. And this beautiful guest today is Yeshua, is Christ, is Jesus. And he steps forward now. So I'm going to invite you now, beloved, to close your eyes. Taking a deep breath as we open the space here and we connect heart to heart, souls to souls. Becoming really receptive now to this moment. And this moment, this journey, this short journey we will be taking together is a journey of initiation. This journey is an initiation. It is the third initiation or activation for this program. And this is really going to prepare you for the final and fourth source code activation next week. So just taking a few deep breaths and just breathe naturally, allowing the body to move and flow at the beautiful, most comfortable speed for you. Beautiful. When I went through my personal initiation, one of my initiations, the most intense one, to be honest, Jesus stepped forward for me at that time, and he brought forward a story of one of his own experiences. And this experience was when he had to go into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And what that experience was like for him. That experience was an initiation for him as well. It was a very huge, intense initiation for him. And he explained that as he walked on the desert, days in, he became really hungry. His stomach started growling. He started becoming fatigued. Started getting headaches, pains in the body. And it was slight at first, but the more into the initiation that he went and journeyed, the more difficult and challenging it became for him. It's as if all the wisdom he had gained up until then went out of the window, because now he was just a human being trying to survive within the desert. And his body was not happy. His body wasn't happy about what was happening. His mind would start coming up with these stories, these judgments, these assumptions, these fears. He really didn't think he would make it at a certain point. He didn't think he would survive. He started almost hallucinating at some points, and he became really angry at God. And he was screaming, and he was crying, and he was begging for help. And he wanted this to stop. You see, for him, beloved, these moments of challenge, it felt like it would never end. He almost believed that it would never end. And if it did end, it would probably end in his death. It felt like a permanent situation of intense upheaval, challenge, pain that he had gone through. And now the mind was giving in. The mind was so distraught. The mind was also so fearful. And he became really angry in moments. He became really fearful in moments. And he began begging in other instances for a way out. He didn't understand why he needed to go through all of the things that he was going through. He didn't understand the point of it. And somehow along this journey, he came to a realization. And he's not sure if it was his realization or what came through him as a guided message. But what he realized is that he was identifying so much with his physical vessel, with the physical body, that he had forgotten that he truly can never die. He had forgotten that he was, in fact, so much more than just this body, so much more than just this experience. And so he began to surrender everything. He surrendered the thoughts, that incessant cycle of pestering thoughts of fear and doubt. He began to surrender them. It's almost as if this experience forced him to a point where he could either go on suffering or he could surrender. And he chose to surrender after having this realization. He surrendered those thoughts, those beliefs. He even surrendered his body. He began to walk. And even though he felt fatigued and really tired and he could pass out at any time, he realized he was having pain in his body and he could hear the grumbling sounds within his stomach because of hunger. But he responded to it in a different way this time. He heard the grumbling sounds in his stomach and he said, "Oh, okay, my body is hungry. It's okay." And he moved on. He no longer assigned a negative story to what was happening. He no longer went into desperation mode. He no longer resisted the experience. He actually radically accepted the moment as it is from a neutral perspective. And slowly and the more he moved along the journey, the more this became a natural way of being for him. It was a constant state of coming back to surrender, letting go, accepting, allowing, not identifying with this body so much. Surrendering to that higher power that wants to flow through me. And even though he still had physical challenges, that at any point he could possibly pass out or die, he still looked at it, okay, this is just an experience. It possibly has a benefit to it. I don't know at this point. I don't know what benefit it has, but I'm going to trust that it has a benefit to it. So I will allow this experience to be. And he walked on. He journeyed on. Until he got to a point of complete and utter surrendering, where he was no longer the body or the mind. The body was there, the mind was there, but he began to identify with his soul, source, self. And he told me that from that moment on, that is when that opening connection expanded in terms of his connection with other masters and other higher beings. This is the pivotal point on his journey where he actually started to communicate with other beings, and he actually started to receive direct guidance from other masters that were guiding him on his journey. And so his whole experience altered because he accessed his multidimensional state of being, his nature, his essence, and the body was merely just a vessel. It was merely just a vessel that he was using in that lifetime to fulfill his path, and his purpose, and his journey. Eventually, he moved through that initiation, and he was fine. He was fine. He had a journey to walk, a path to walk, things to do that he chose to come here to do, and he did it. But the message of the story, beloved, is this. Is that you are at a point now where you are ready to truly surrender to a level that you've never surrendered before. And Jesus wants to walk with you in this short process now to help you surrender even deeper. He wants to guide you through this initiation personally today, where you can just let yourself be as you are. Remember then and realize your vast nature, so that you, beloved, can then walk away and go forth being in flow with the river of life. So we will begin. Taking a deep breath in now. And as you close your eyes and you go into a deeper state of stillness, instantly you are transported to your own personal desert. And I'm seeing that it's just everywhere you look are just endless sand. Really, sandbanks or sand, beautiful, smooth. And in the distance, in the horizon, you can see the sun slowly beginning to rise. So it's quite early in the morning, maybe 5, 6 a.m. And suddenly you look over your right shoulder behind you and you see this figure walking towards you. Behind your back, he's walking towards you, and you can almost see his shadow. Because the sun is beginning to rise, but it has been dark outside, and you can see him come towards you. And this is Jesus. He steps forward now to walk alongside you, truly. He wants me to emphasize the excitement that he feels in this moment to be here with you. It feels almost like he has this permanent peace within him, but in his step as he's walking, there's a little bit of excitement. That's what it feels like. It feels like he has a bit of excitement that has now come up within his physical body. And as he comes up to you, he stands next to you and he places his left hand on your right shoulder. And he looks at you and he asks you, are you ready? And before you can even say yes, he says, of course you are. Of course you are. And he smiles. And He places His left hand in your right hand, and you begin walking the journey. And so you begin your journey forward with Jesus by your side. Your journey of initiation within the next few minutes. As you begin to open up to a realm of infinite possibilities and potentialities, as you begin to open up to the source that exists already within you, that has always been there. Remember, beloved, this is a process of resting awareness. And so just take this moment in, take this journey in as you walk forward with Jesus by your side, observing the vast landscape, observing your state of being, observing just being in the present moment with a master by your side, mirroring to you your own potential, your own magnificence, your mastery. And you begin to surrender. Surrendering more with each step. Surrendering your body, your identity, your beliefs, your perspectives, your limited views, your personas, your labels, your traumas, your fears, your strategies. With each step you are surrendering even more deeply, even more deeply. There's nothing to say here. The only thing you need to do is to be. The only thing you need to do is allow. And for the first time possibly in your life, you are going to fully accept yourself as you are. And in this moment, your inner child joins this journey of initiation, and she comes forward and she takes your hand, your left hand now, and she joins you in the journey forward. And for the first time in her life, she truly feels supported and guided. She's not doing this alone anymore. This is her opportunity now to really accept and acknowledge her magnificence, to come back home to herself, himself. Take 5 more steps forward with your inner child and with Jesus. And then I want you to sit down on the sand. Jesus now sits behind you and almost holds you from the back. And you are holding your inner child. It's as if you are sitting in a row, one behind the other, holding each other. Beloved, let yourself be held in the arms of Christ. Let go of all doings and sense the presence that is here, now. The presence that is here, right now. There we go. Sense the shift, beloved, from the small, flawed self to the awakeness. The shift from the small self to the awareness, to the gold. The shift to the source. Trust this moment. Trust this experience as you begin to hold your own being with radical acceptance. The source that is holding you now, the ever-present essence that is holding all of you now, is merely just you holding yourself with radical acceptance and experiencing the grace in this moment. Realize the love and the grace that is etched in every experience, especially this moment right here, right now. Feel right into the center of your vulnerability. Feel right into the center of your heart. Feel it opening up so wide. Let that energy of love, of kindness move right through your heart to wherever you feel vulnerable within your body. Love exists here. Beloved, this is healing, inner union in motion. Take a moment to receive this initiation from Jesus now, directly. Activate, activate, activate the source code of mastery, realization, and embodiment. The source code of inner union, of coming home once again to your gold, to yourself, to your divine essence, to love. Receive, receive, receive. And as you receive these codes of remembrance and embodiment, it's as if your inner child, yourself, and Jesus now becomes one. It's almost as if you are evaporating into one another as energies. The body no longer is, the energy, the soul, the essence remains. And there now is only one energy, a oneness, a unification, interconnectedness. Feel the merging and the integration of your Christ consciousness, beloved, of your ascended mastery. The next level of embodiment, of transformation, of expansion now unfolding for you in a very accelerated way. Beautiful. And as I leave you with this, we ask for full integration on all levels, on a physical, emotional, mental, and multidimensional level. Allowing that these codes, these remembrances and realizations and our transformation of healing occurs in the most graceful and beautiful ways for you over the days and weeks to come. We thank and honor Jesus for stepping forward today as a beautiful conduit of love and healing. We honor ourselves for how far we've come. I just want to mention one thing before I close. Before I started the very first call of this program, I could see these seeds within you, seeds that have not yet sprouted. And I just got the visual today, and it just melts my heart. I just got the visual within your fields now that the seeds that have not yet sprouted for you in this lifetime have begun to sprout. I can see them sprouting. I can see them moving into bloom. I can see them slowly coming to life and being activated. They are already sprouting and already blooming. And so I want you to also just recognize all you have achieved within the small space of time. All because you are committed and you were ready to come home to yourself. And that takes courage. That takes determination. That takes a willingness that most people does not have. And I commend you for that, beloved. I'm sending you so much love. We are sending you so much love, with love from the Seraphim, the Elohim, the Masters, the Teachers, the Beings of Light, and the Angels and Source Consciousness. We honor you. We bless you. Until next time. Bye-bye.